1990, was it 8 or 6?
6.
1996 when you first ran?
That's correct.
Yeah, and became a congressman, and has had service to our country ever since then. One of the neat things about Pete is when we had a chance to first meet, he said, "I want to get to know your community." Okay, I'd met a lot of congressmen who liked to shake hands and take pictures. One of the things that Pete did is he really did want to get to know our community. And so I'd get a call saying, "I'm going to downtown Wylie. Why don't you come with me and let's walk downtown Wylie?" And then a few years ago, Sam talked to him and said, "You know, we've got this thing with some contaminated land. Is there anything that you can do?" And instead of just giving lip service, he actually called the EPA. And because of that, we now have a piece of property that we're able to sell as commercial property. And it's all because of his efforts. So let's give him a hand for that. Now, in case y'all didn't know, there's a little election coming up. And one of the things about Pete that's I think also very impressive and important that we have is he's not only a congressman, but he's also the chairman of the Rules Committee, which is one of the most powerful committees in Congress. It's kind of neat to know that our representative, that we all know by name, is actually that representative and that chairman. And so we're very honored to have Pete Sessions with us here today. Pete, talk as long as you want. You've got 5 minutes. All right?
You know, in scouting, we have a saying also about decision making, and that is take all the time you need, then make a quick decision. Sam, good to see you, my brother. Mayor, thank you very much. Every time I'm with the mayor, he asks me, "When are you moving to Wylie?" And I've told him I'll come visit. I'm going to make a decision on that here pretty soon.
I know a realtor too.
Yes, sir. The chance for me to be here today is exciting to me, not just to sponsor this lunch, but actually to come, as we had planned a long time ago, and be before you today to talk about a legislative update, to talk about the things which I think are important for us to understand and know, not only about the things that are happening in our country, but the direction that we intend to go. Let me say this, I used to serve as chairman of the board of the Dallas Northeast Chamber, which was, you would know it as the East Dallas Chamber, but we became the Northeast Chamber. Spent a number of years, 16 years at then Southwestern Bell or AT&T, working on, I ran our marketing department, but when you do that, you have to double on economic development. While we had our own economic development team, I was really our lead innovator on trying to make sure that what came to Dallas would stay in Dallas and would create not just permanent jobs, but would get the infrastructure that they needed for technology. During my 16 years, I'd been at 7 different locations. I moved around with the company in our marketing department. I actually came to Dallas in 1989 from what was then the old Bell Labs organization in New Jersey. Was on the original Bell Labs team that invented broadband. And so I had seen where the future potentially was going to go. And you'd say, did we make it? Well, yeah, we've made it. We are, as a country and as a world, we have got to where we understand things that are right at our fingertips. We have helped out in education. We've helped out in learning. We've helped out in business and business development to not only sell your product, but to understand more about the world that we live in. And so I want to say that Wylie, Texas, I believe, is positioned not just because of Bush and not just because of the excitement in this community, but actually the kind of community that we have is very important, I think, economically, school-wise, certainly within your places of worship, but also this chamber is very important to this community. And so I want to highlight how important it is for that relationship that I have with Wylie, Texas, not just your elected officials, economic development, your commerce, but actually the chamber, because it's the basis, the building block of people who understand economic development, the integrity of not just a city, but the integrity of the area. And when I was chairman of the board of the East Dallas Chamber, I understood very well what we had. It's an area that was built out. It had a number of hospitals. It had a number of banks. It had a number of small businesses. It had Lakewood. It had a lot of things. But the bottom line is the success of that area still was built around the largest businesses, because where the largest businesses are, they have feeders off of that provide goods and services that made those hospitals and those banks even more powerful and better, with people who could deliver a service, people who were there to make sure that the products were on time and the right price and were done properly. So the chamber always shares an important role. Today I'd like to talk about you as chamber members knowing a little bit more about what we are doing in Washington. The mayor was delighted to give me 5 minutes, and I'm at about 4 minutes and 55 seconds now. But I want to say to you that there are 3 important things that you would be able to plan on, be engaged in, and provide us feedback for as we enter this next term. Now, you and I both know this is the most competitive race in the country that's going on here. You're going to have a chance to be participatory in that effort. But that when I get back to Washington and my party gets back to Washington, we expect to do 3 things rather rapidly that we somewhat teed up last time, but that we are going to get done on all 3 efforts. Number 1, we passed a tax bill in 17. About December 17th, 2017, we passed a tax bill that might be controversial, but that was because of reconciliation, meaning it only required 51 votes in the Senate. We passed it. That has created the greatest economic opportunity in the history of our country. We have gone from a GDP rate of an average, based upon where we had been for 8 years, of about 1.2 to 1.4%. Some years it was 0% GDP growth, to now a Republican, what I call Republican economy, and that is where GDP is higher than unemployment. 4.3% GDP growth, about 3.9% unemployment. That means that it's all over the country. It's not just in Silicon Valley. It's not just in one area of the country that gained a benefit. We are Americans. We want every single community to have the ability to build themselves back. So we're now going to go to what's called Tax Code 2.0, and that is an opportunity for us to make permanent what is now a 10-year law. We have found that what happens is that people make wiser decisions, and if we've got any bankers that are in here, where's Anita? There you are. As we make long-term decisions, we want people to build permanent structures, better parking lots, better schools, better development internally. And when they do that off a model where they can not only make money but depreciate it properly, they tend to make wiser choices. So what we want to do is go to 2.0. Some of the major changes that we will make there is not just making it permanent, which I believe is very possible for us to get done early in the year, but for us actually to make some changes too. As a result of what we have done with the tax bill, there are some 6 million jobs that are unfilled in this country. 6 million jobs that are going begging right now. What would those 6 million jobs do? They'll help us pay for Social Security. We've already added some 3.5 or 4 million jobs. There's about 6 left out there, and we cannot find workers. One of the biggest reasons why is people can't pass a drug test. That is the number 1 reason why we are not fulfilling our circumstance, because a lot of these jobs, you have to be able to be in the public confidence. You have to drive a truck. You have to be able to come and present yourself in public. And we have a drug problem in this country. We have an addiction problem in this country. But what we're trying to get to is to make this where we can get to full employment with people having careers. So 2 of the changes we're going to make are to allow seniors that today might be out of the marketplace because there's what's called an earning limit. There's an earning limit where a senior can't make more than 16.4. We're going to change that, let them come into the marketplace and say. Secondly, we're going to allow seniors to have an HSA, and that is where they can save their own money and use it in a system that's called Medicare to pay their own fees for healthcare related services. Secondly, we're going to solve the immigration issue. We got close this last year. As you know, we had, I know this is not, it doesn't have to be a UT crowd, but for that, I know this ain't a crowd. But where we have two different options, we had an option on the floor that allowed guest worker plans, a guest worker status for every single person in this country, and on the other side, a pathway to citizenship. Unfortunately, we did not draw not one person from the other party who would vote yes for either one. It's up to us to pull it off. We will be back next year with a guest worker plan. Last point, healthcare. We came within one vote in the Senate of going to a conference where we are going to fix the healthcare plan. What is the healthcare plan in this country? Real simple. If you work and you get your healthcare on a pre-tax basis from your employer, we're going to let you keep that. But we're going to add to it, if you don't, we're going to add what's called a tax credit. Generally, it's every Republican bill has this, but what it does is allow every single person that does not get this opportunity to have parity, $3,000 for every adult, $1,500 for every child, $9,000 for every single family of four, that they will be able to apply that to a marketplace answer that they would choose, the insurance of their choice, first dollar, they could apply the $9,000. And what it would mean is that people would have, instead of a lesser plan, they will be able to get a group plan offered by any insurance company, life insurance company, or the HSA that they would choose. This is not going to cost us a penny more, not a penny more, and will save us, but move our Americans instead of down to a system that's a government-run system, which is what the other side proposes, all the way up to the same thing that anyone that works for a company would have parity with. So I'm very excited what next year is going to mean. My 5 minutes and 95 seconds are up, but I want to thank each of you for allowing us to be here to give this legislative updates on the three primary things we're going to get done this next year. I look forward to not only coming back, I'd like to do well enough to be invited back, but to come back and discuss with some specificity as we go through each of those to get your ideas on how to make it better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sessions. That was wonderful. We're going to start releasing for the lunch over here, the table that we start up front, right here at Pete's table. Why don't you go